Merry readers, come cozy in. Let the story time begin with Robin and the Marys.
Hi Merry Readers! Today is September 30th and that means it's time for chapter 11 from A Discovery of Witches, real-time reread. If you haven't already watched my other videos up to this point, please feel free to go check them out. They're live on YouTube and on Instagram right now. I have videos for every chapter from 1 to 10 that are already up and ready to go, and there's conversations happening in the comments, so please feel free to check those out. If you're just tuning in now, if you've been with me all along, welcome back. I am still feeling a little under the weather and I've just had a very busy week with work, so again I'm going to be reading a summary that I wrote for this chapter and then answering questions, but this video will be a little bit more brief than some of my other videos just because I don't have as much time to go as in-depth as I was able to in some of the other videos. So I hope you still enjoy and I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comments. So the morning after Diana's unsettling encounter with Peter Knox, Diana wakes up rattled but determined. She heads to the Bodleian as usual, only for her to sit down and get comfortable and for Knox to come in at 10:30 and stare at her from across the library. His stare is constant, predatory, and Diana, who is uneasy, checks to make sure that Miriam is still nearby. Miriam reassures her in her own blunt way. She wishes she were larger so she could intimidate Knox. Then Matthew arrives and everything changes. Instead of an icy, cold feeling that Diana usually feels from vampires, she senses snowflakes, sharp but delicate. His anger towards Knox is palpable, the air crackling with hostility. Matthew offers to sit near her, but Diana declines. Still, he insists Miriam shadow her to lunch, unwilling to leave her exposed. Matthew also asks her if she would like to go to yoga that evening and insists that he will pick her up just before the class as usual, and Diana happily agrees. After a long day at the library, Diana is exhausted but looks forward to their evening yoga class. She notices Matthew touching a bump beneath his shirt close to his heart as though hiding something precious. They exchange tense words in the car and Diana asks about Scotland, and Matthew bristles when he finds out that Miriam told Diana that he had gone up there to hunt and shares that he would prefer that she had not shared this with mixed company. He admits he never would have left if he had known Knox was involved. Diana meanwhile acknowledges something big. She's been using magic unconsciously all along. When they reach yoga, Matthew finally confesses he was with Hamish Osborne, his demon friend. Diana recognizes the name from the newspapers. Hamish is a financial genius with global influence. Matthew admits he had to leave Oxford because he couldn't stop thinking about Diana. He couldn't even hold onto her cardigan without wanting her too much. When she asks if he left because he feared hurting her, he doesn't deny it, only clarifies it had nothing to do with Friday night. Class begins with a mirror, and at the end, Diana catches sight of Matthew's necklace, a pilgrim's badge from Bethany tied to Lazarus. The relic is both mysterious and deeply symbolic, and when she asks Matthew about it, all he shares is that it's a reminder of the past and a past mistake. When they step outside, Diana tries to confide. The manuscript is bewitched. Knox is after it, and so is everyone else. Suddenly, a white owl swoops down, triggering Diana's panic attack. Matthew steadies her, helping her breathe through it. He insists on taking her home, refusing to leave her alone in this state. In the car, their conversation deepens. Matthew asks why she called him after the incident instead of her friends. Diana admits she doesn't have creature friends, and she didn't want to drag her aunts into this mess. She wonders aloud if she shouldn't have called him. Matthew reminds her she once said witches and vampires can't be friends, and Diana admits she doesn't know what to think anymore, except one thing: she'd rather share the library with him than anyone else. Matthew warns her that vampires can't truly be trusted around warm-blooded creatures. They're too protective, too possessive. Diana counters that she could use a little of that right now. For the first time, Matthew promises something absolute. Knox will not get within 50 feet of you again. When they arrive at her flat, Diana takes a bold step. Before leaving the car, she asks Matthew if he'd like to have dinner with her tomorrow night. He freezes, then agrees. She sets the time for 7:30. When she jokingly asks what he eats, Matthew answers, "I'm omnivorous," which Diana finds maddeningly vague. Before parting, she begs him to let Miriam do her own work. He brushes it off, but reassures her he'll be there tomorrow no matter what. The chapter closes not with danger, but with anticipation. The romance is no longer lurking. It's about to become undeniable. And also during this, they have some conversations about their friendship, and they agree that they are friends because they're able to tell each other the truth with no issues, and no matter what, no matter how hard it might be. And this is just a really sweet chapter, because I think that after the Friday night chapter that we had after yoga, we were all feeling a little bit bristled with the two of them. So it's nice to hear them talk these things through. So for my questions for this chapter, the setting is Diana's flat in the morning, the Bodleian library, the yoga studio, and then the car, and outside Diana's flat. For characters, this whole chapter is mostly just Diana and Matthew. We have a couple of words with Miriam. We know Knox is there. Amira just has one quick little part where she asks them if they're coming in for class. We hear about Hamish again, and that is it for our characters. Magic watch. Diana admits to Matthew she's been unconsciously using magic for years, and the panic attack triggered by the owl reflects both trauma and magical adrenaline that she has coursing through her bloodstream. The mood is suspense and romance intertwined in this chapter. From Knox's menace to Matthew's quiet confessions to Diana's bold dinner invitation, the tone shifts toward intimacy as we go along and away from the danger that we've been feeling in the last couple of chapters. So for symbols and details, we have the snowflakes versus ice, which signifies a softening for Diana. Around Matthew, he no longer feels like sharp icicles to her, and he's more of a soft snowflake feeling. The pilgrim's badge is definitely a very nice detail, and then the owl is an omen, triggering messenger of fear. Romance watch, as I already said, we have their first real dinner date set, and Diana asks directly, Matthew agrees, and that their relationship shifts from tension to invitation, and they agree that they are friends. So it was a really sweet chapter for their relationship. Food and drink, Diana's question, what do you eat? So we didn't have an eating scene in this chapter, but we did have some joking around about what Diana could possibly make a vampire for dinner. The overall vibe of this chapter was definitely a pivot chapter. Diana admits her power, Matthew admits his obsession, and their romance becomes official with a dinner date. Foreshadowing, we have the owl as an omen of danger, Matthew's relic foreshadowing his deep ties to death, resurrection, and faith, but also just this constant reminder he feels like needs to have physically on him to remind him of a past mistake, and the promise that Knox won't go near her again, which of course leads to the question, is that really possible for Matthew to promise something like that? So my discussion question for today in the comments is, if you were Diana, would you have invited Matthew to dinner knowing he admits vampires can't be trusted with warm bloods and knowing everything else? And I think a follow-up question that I'd like to add is, if you were Diana, would you have been able to stop yourself from telling Matthew everything you wanted to tell him, even though he told you it could all wait until you feel calmer? So I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I will see you tomorrow for chapter 12. Thank you so much. Bye!
So many readers, close your eyes. Let the stories lift and rise. Till next time, when lights will gleam, we're bright.